This time on Watchers of Tomorrow, when is a holodeck not a holodeck?
Hello, welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi review and critique show where it is a dark and stormy night. Ooh, actually it's a bright and way too hot day, but so I apologize if there is background noise because I'm not turning off my air conditioner for anyone. My name is Gepwin, and I'm joined as always by my friend and co-host Dr. Isix.
Hi. Also, I was the air conditioner just now.
Oh, so this is one of those ones.
Yep, this is certainly an episode of Star Trek.
I mean, yeah, it's a very classic kind of episode of Star Trek. I was just thinking about this a minute ago when I was pulling the script up and getting my notes together. This is such an oddball episode that I'm constantly trying to remember it as a season 1 episode because it seems like it fits there better. Yes. But then that means that every time I try to remember it, I get confused whether or not Riker's supposed to have a beard.
And surprise, he does.
So yeah, this is the Royale, which if you don't recognize the name, it is the one where the crew get trapped in a hotel and casino.
Yes, it's a little bit like the Hotel California, but in space.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they don't technically check in fully. It's like,
and
yeah,
I'm not sure whether it's in California or not. I mean, they get a room key, so I guess they do check in, but they do leave. Spoilers.
Surprise, this is not the last episode of the series. Oh, we just lost some crew members there. It's fine.
Oh, well. Dang it. Yeah, this is like one of those FTL missions. Like, do you send your crew down to the mysterious hotel? Oh, they're dead.
Yep. Just gone. Don't worry about it.
This episode was written by one Tracy Torme, who is credited as Keith Mills for some reason. They didn't want their name attached to this.
Yeah, I hated this sort of alternative to the writer title there.
Torme was a writer for Saturday Night Live in the 80s and a story editor for Next Generation, but left early on in this season for obvious reasons that we're going to get into in a minute. He also co-created Sliders.
Yes.
Had his name removed from this episode because the original script was about the nightmare of an astronaut being trapped forever in his most pleasant memory, and then it was rewritten into what we see now.
Yes. So it's like, this isn't what I wrote really at all, so I don't want my actual name on it, please.
Mm-hmm. Which that sounds kind of interesting, right? The horror of being trapped in your most pleasant memory for eternity.
It reminds me of the movie Brain Candy.
Haven't heard of that one.
Kids in the Hall. The premise is that there's a big pharmaceutical company that's trying to make a lot more money, and their big success is kind of fading in terms of profitability. So they're like, we're kind of just going out of our way to get anything here, there, or anywhere that will be able to sell. And one of their researchers pops up and's like, well, I got a cure for depression. And like, brilliant. Never mind that one of the side effects is that after, it cures your depression by having you remember constantly your favorite memory of all, that makes you happiest. And eventually that's all you can experience. And so you just kind of get frozen in that memory.
Fun.
Yeah. It's also very silly. Anyway.
Rotten Tomato score of 44% and a Metacritic score of 55%. So polarizing.
Yes.
And Siskel and Ebert were split.
It is a comedy, so very subjective on how you sort of read the humor there. So yes.
Yeah, we have more guest stars than normal, so I'm going to do a very quick rundown here because I have to name several people. It's like 4, which is my limit. After 4, I start dropping people off.
So I'll start with Patrick Stewart. Wait a second.
Sam Anderson plays the assistant manager. He did a good amount of TV in the 80s and 90s and had reoccurring roles on Growing Pains and Perfect Strangers, as well as an FBI agent on the series called Picket Fences.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Jill Jacobson plays Vanessa. She was best known for recurring roles on the soap operas Falcon Crest and The New Gidget. And in the 80s, she was on a lot of made-for-TV movies.
Yeah, still doing sort of one-off roles here and there. Murphy Brown, House of Usher, Castle, something called Etheria. It's a bartender, I guess.
Okay, that doesn't sound familiar. Castle, yeah. I know. But...
Yes.
Then Leo Garcia plays the bellboy. A lot of these people don't have names.
Yes.
He's appeared in shows like Fame and would later appear in films like The Last Resort because he had experience in a resort, you see.
Yes.
And,
in this episode.
Clear and Present Danger.
Yeah. He was also in Space Above and Beyond, which is a little known but kind of awesome space science fiction show from the early 90s, or mid-90s, I guess.
Well, that does sound interesting.
That's basically some humans are like going to the stars, and then suddenly aliens attack, and they're like, "What the heck, aliens? We're not going to talk to you. We're just going to shoot you a lot." Oh, this sucks.
All right, so every video game.
Yes. So how do you deal with that, like as actual people?
Then finally, for our purposes, we have Noble Wilhelm. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I think it might be Wilhelm, but it's got an N in the middle of it, so I don't know if I'm supposed to pronounce that.
Willingham?
Willingham, there we go. I did it. You did it.
He was in a lot of this little-known show called Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah, I mean, if you can remember.
From the 90s, that show about the Texas Ranger who like kicks people a lot.
He was on a lot of TV history, like a lot of TV. It was in Bonanza and Gunsmoke. I was going to say Gunstroke. What is that? That sounds dirty.
Yeah, that's the porn parody.
The Waltons, Mary Tyler Moore, A-Team. Yeah, main role in Walker, Texas Ranger, and would later appear in Quantum Leap. So all the things.
Also in Aftermash and Highway to Heaven and a few others. So,
oh no,
yeah.
Aftermash.
Yes. So apparently there was another sequel to the series. He was also in Today's FBI.
Today's FBI, along with the historical spin-off show Yesterday's FBI and the science fiction show Tomorrow's FBI.
The complete FBI cinematic TV universe. It's growing, man.
Well, they should have crossovers. They should have like the serial killer that they chase in Yesterday's and then they find in the present one, and then they like resurrected future cloning for the future one.
And then there's also like the reboot one where they have a crossover where the cloned one has now been teleported over and is a cyborg. And
so yeah, we should pitch our FBI. The connected shows. You have to watch all three. It's like they all show in order. Yeah. On UPN probably. Is UPN still a thing? I don't watch TV anymore.
I don't think so. Maybe we should bring it back.
Yeah. The United Purgatory Network. We just play repeats of old shows over and over.
But we arrange them in such a way that it's plausible that they're all connected.
Yes. Somebody write this up. It's the network for the whatever hospital cinematic universe.
The St. Elsewhere.
Yeah, St. Elsewhere. There it was.
Connect Mary Tyler Moore to Doctor Who and back again.
I can't tell if I don't think I have anything to talk about or if I'm just too hot to think coherently.
So I guess I'll have to come up with some stuff then, all right?
So we may as well get to whatever. This is no more coherent than this episode is going to be, so I guess that's why I'm not trying very hard.
It's all good.
So the Enterprise is diverted from its intended course, which is going to investigate something else, because some Klingons found some unusual debris orbiting a planet.
Well, that's kind of cool. So this is like up in orbit, and we can sort of view screen it up and be like, oh hey, it's like a broken whatever here.
Yeah. The planet in question is completely uninhabitable. Surface temperature is lower than absolute zero, with a 300 meter per second wind speed, and an atmosphere made of liquid nitrogen.
So it's a little ridiculous there. and impossible.
I forget what they quoted, but I was just curious, so I looked up the number that they quoted, and it is well below absolute zero. Riker goes to see Picard, who's mulling over Formet's last theorem, which, for those wondering, is x to the n plus y to the n equals z to the n if n is no more than 2.
Yeah, and basically it says that, this is not a applicable equation if all those values are integers.
Yes, which...
except for 1 and 2, of course.
I mean, I'll give you a minute to work it out.
Yeah.
And, it's never been proven until about 10 years after this episode aired.
Yes. The early proof was like in 93. The more complete one was a few years later, and but it's apparently never solved in the Star Trek timeline, which I guess maybe explains everything.
Maybe something in our future will be irrevocably altered by having proved that n squared, that x to the n plus y to the n equals z to the n has no solution in positive integers.
Yes, except for 1 and 2 for n.
Well, if n is greater than 2, so you don't have that 1 and 2. Anyone who's confused, math, though it seems really simplistic, takes a very absurd amount of logic to actually demonstrate whether or not something is true.
Indeed.
Like, it takes 6 pages to demonstrate factually that 1 plus 1 equals 2.
Because you have to, establish that you can add things, and this is how adding things works, and that these numbers exist in a timeline of a set of numbers, and so on and so forth. You have to compile all these together, and then you can prove it.
I asked a math teacher once, and he said that the proof is essentially just proving that nothing else could.
Like, if you could exclude everything else, then but not this, then that works.
So math takes an absurd amount of work to be able to demonstrate, and we take a lot of things on faith.
Indeed.
So they leave the math talk behind because no one cares. This is a science fiction show. No one cares about math. They beam on board some of the debris that they're here to investigate, and they grab something that they think has markings on it, and they pull it up, and it's a NASA logo with an American flag.
Huh. Well, that's a little wacky. How did this get all the way over here? This is like light years from Earth, like a whole bunch, like more than 4.
Yeah. On further inspection, it's a Earth ship from the mid-21st century. It is also degraded, like it was hit with some sort of energy weapon.
So, Klingons, have you been, shooting at this thing here? Is that why it's all broken up?
I mean, they do that. Also, on the planet, in the middle of a plain of frozen methane, is a little box of breathable atmosphere.
Well, that's weird. Wait a moment. We've run into this sort of thing in Star Trek before. Trelane, are you back?
So they decide that the only way to do anything about this is to send a team down. They don't have probes. Stargate invented a thing to send through first to make sure you didn't pop out into space.
Yes.
They don't even bother.
And, even in the other Stargates, they're like, we need an alternative to this because we can't just keep building robots. We'll have the ship just has like a floating sphere you could send through. It's cool.
Yeah, the vlogosphere.
Yes.
I hated that show.
I enjoyed it, but it had its flaws. So anyway.
So Riker, Worf, and Data prepare to head down. I would possibly, like I said, send a probe, or at least send them down in environmental suits to this, completely unlivable space.
Yes.
But
it's like, this could just be a sensor glitch,
Yeah, they beam down to a big black box with a single freestanding revolving door. They enter to find themselves in a fancy hotel lobby and casino, where they are immediately cut off from all communications to the ship, and they lose their transporter lock.
Well, this sucks. What do we do now? Do we try to go back outside and reestablish communications? Because this seems like there's like an interference field here. And, well, if we get rid of trouble, that could be, a big problem to get us out of there in a hurry.
Yeah, you'd think so. But Riker goes, it's fine. I'm sure it's fine.
The downside of having a beard is sometimes he makes really silly decisions because he's just feeling so much bolder.
Yeah. So inside, they are directed to the front desk, where the assistant manager is expecting them, apparently. A trio of foreign visitors.
Yes. Are you like a a person, an AI, maybe some sort of robot, maybe.
I love this guy. This acting is great.
Yes. Because it's like, I'm trying to make sense of you, and yes, you're from out of town, so foreign people, yes.
Just like, where are you from? We are from space. Excellent. I'm sure you are. So he's interrupted from checking them in by the bellboy, who wants to know if someone named Rita called, and to talk up how he hates someone called Mickey D, and he's not afraid of Mickey D. No, sir, not Mr. Bellboy.
Yeah, so do be careful, though. I hear he has a clown on the payroll.
So the assistant manager just goes like, shoo, Bellboy, and gives the crew their keys and some complimentary casino chips. He's otherwise completely unhelpful of any attempts for them to question in any capacity.
Guess we are now here, and we can gamble if we want. Now what?
So Data scans everything and discovers that no one has life signs. There's no machinery, but everything very definitely exists. That's there. They can touch it. It's just not really there.
So it is both here and not here. We are apparently in Schrodinger's holodeck.
So he starts scanning a guy in a cowboy outfit, and he goes, "This man doesn't even have DNA." And he takes offense to that.
Now, the only reason, though, that he's even responding, though, is because he's one of the main characters of the story.
So this is Tex. Tex is teaching his girlfriend, someone.
His lady friend.
Yeah. To play blackjack. And gives her very, very bad advice about the blackjack.
Mm-hmm.
That Data points out that the odds are not in favor of what he's suggesting.
It's almost like this guy's trying to have her lose all her money or something like that. That's suspicious.
Or he's very bad at blackjack, because most people are.
Yes.
Riker decides that now it's time for them to leave, because I guess he doesn't like the cowboy hat or something. I don't know why now is the time to try to leave.
Oh no, Data's going native.
They go through the revolving door, and they wind up coming right back inside, because as you can see by watching their shadows, they don't in fact let go of the door at any point.
Yep. This is one of those situations where they could very easily have done like a very basic special effect that has been around for decades at this point to make it look like that the moment they are leaving, they're coming right back in. But they opt not to do that.
But why do it in 2 takes when you could do it in 1?
And have it look silly.
Yeah. So back on the ship, they're trying to figure out a way to break through the interference that's keeping them from communicating with the away team. Also, Geordi thinks he might be able to punch through the bubble with phasers, which would collapse it and immediately kill them all. But, we might be able to beam them out just before that happens.
Indeed. So we'll call that, option suicide,
Now that the away team has figured out that they can't get out through the revolving door, they start shooting everything. Doesn't do anything, though.
It's like, oh, yes, these walls are apparently immune to phasers. Well, I guess we should have been expecting that, I guess. Maybe there's like a back door, a window, maybe.
It seems to be this one room, really. It's a very boring hotel. So Riker goes on to question the manager, and they see that the bellboy now has a gun. So things have escalated.
So which one of them is going to get shot by this guy?
Yeah, Chekhov's gun.
Yes.
Bellboy's gun.
Wait a second. There's no Chekhov in this episode, though. Huh.
No. I mean, we don't know what the bellboy's name is.
Oh, that's true.
It's Chekhov's ancestor. So the manager continues to be very unhelpful and just sort of wanders away. Not all hope is lost, though, because Picard has figured out a way to get through to them. Though there's a lot of interference, they can communicate.
Well, Riker, why didn't you, try to leave right away? It's like, oh, we were trapped. Yeah, totally. It wasn't me being kind of silly about not trying to leave.
No. We were definitely trapped the whole time. I tried to get back. Yeah. I wasn't reveling in my power or anything.
Yep. Finally out from under your shadow, Picard. Mwah!
So while they work on how to get communications back up and normal, Data detects human DNA a few levels above them. They head upstairs and find the remains of a man lying in a hotel bed who died about 200 years ago. But the environment in here is so stable that he mummified.
Yeah, though this is a very poor mummification all the same, because it's a little bit more decayed than that. So it's clearly there's some miscommunication between the prop people and the script people, because this guy,
Well, I don't know. This just wouldn't work in any regard. The mummification would be because the environment would be too dry to allow there to be decay.
Yes.
The most of the stuff that decays you as a entity is already there. You brought it with you.
Get dried out so it doesn't last very long.
So they find the mummy, and in the closet they find a spacesuit with the flag patch on it that has 52 stars, and they finally get a solid communication from the ship.
Wait a second, 52 stars? That means finally Puerto Rico became a state.
Yeah, or DC.
Well, this is, Star Trek. They wouldn't give DC the statehood, though they should.
What else we get? The Guam?
Guam, maybe like a general Pacifica state that has like some weird rules to like join American Samoa in as well. Yeah.
I mean, really, if we were going to do well, we'd need at least an extra 4, maybe 5.
Yeah, I'd like to see Puerto Rico, very specific, island territories, and DC becoming states. And, I think that'd be, both cool and, give them some representation,
I know some of the Pacific Island colonies have a mixed view on whether or not they'd enjoy statehood.
Indeed. I believe American Samoa is like, we're kind of actually okay with the status quo. Like last time they were sort of given a good, survey/vote on it. And so they continued as was. But who knows what the future may bring. Could become independent. They plow.
But at some time in the mid-21st century, we had 52 states. Probably during that weirdly brief period between now and World War III.
I guess maybe that's why. No, that's a terrible explanation for why people are trying to prevent, World War III.
No, it's a very, very terrible explanation for any of that. I don't know. I'm sorry. I enjoyed the time travel episode of Strange New Worlds, but we really didn't need an explanation for why the timeline doesn't line up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Things are just getting complicated. Don't worry about it.
Anyway. Now that they can communicate with the ship, they run a search for the astronaut and find that he was the commander of the third manned mission that attempted to leave the solar system.
Well, what happened to the other two?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't make it. Maybe they didn't actually leave. They got to Jupiter and were like, this is boring.
We're just sitting in space a whole lot. I don't know what to do, man. Our computer's already tried to murder us, and we shut him down before he could do that.
They also find a novel in the hotel room called the Hotel Royale, which is the name of the hotel that they're in. It's about a group of gamblers in a hotel and a murder of the bellboy and an older man who is consorting with a woman in order to murder her husband and who is squandering her inheritance. All things that, they've seen happen.
Yeah, so he really is trying to get the lady to, lose all her money for reasons, and then, he'll plot some murder later. And the bellboy is already running around. He's talking about Mickey D. And apparently all of this was written by Mickey D's perspective? That's weird.
Yeah.
Because he's not here.
Yeah. So for what I imagined before I walked in and killed that guy.
Yes. This is what was going on, clearly.
They also find a diary that has one entry by the astronaut. Apparently their ship was infected by some sort of alien being. It tried to communicate with them, but accidentally killed everybody except for himself. And out of some sort of guilt, the beings created this hotel based on the novel, assuming that this is a representation of life on Earth.
So it's sort of like the Quatermass experiment, but the alien force is trying to be nice about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's been trapped in this living hell for 30 years, and he will welcome death.
I thought being near Jupiter was boring. This is even worse.
So now they've gotten a very nice, neat explanation of everything that's going on, and they need to figure out how to get out of here. So far, the only plan they have is to break the bubble with phasers, let them all freeze to death, and then try to revive them when they beam them back. So you should probably find another option.
Yes. Maybe there's a master control system somewhere, and having tricorders, you might be able to locate it and make use of that in order to get out of the situation. A tool that the astronaut that was stuck here clearly didn't have.
Yeah, you could use your gadgets or something.
Yeah.
But Picard and Troy start reading the novel, hoping they can gain some information that might help. It was a dark and stormy night, which is not an auspicious beginning.
Nope. The last time I read, that particular opening to a story, it was intentionally trying to be a silly story, and this is being a little bit more serious. Uh-oh.
Is that the dark and stormy night competition?
Not quite. This was someone trying to, the short version is it was a parody of erotica. So a friend of mine put it together, and yes.
Is a parody of erotica just massively unerotic?
Yeah. It also has more puns, and I hope there would be pancakes.
So, while Picard's looking at the book, the away team tries to question the guests. They don't have a lot of luck. Most of them won't engage with them, and the ones who won't break script.
Mm-hmm. So, it seems that Tex is both the story character and the story character. That's why they can talk to him.
Yes.
Yes.
They search around. Bellboy shows up again. Manager says Rita called, and she was crying. No.
Oh, Rita, where are you?
Mickey D enters. The manager asks him to take it outside. He and the bellboy head towards the revolving door, and Mickey D shoots him in the back.
Well, I think everyone should be freaking out. Someone calling the cops around this point.
Yeah, but nothing.
Maybe.
Nope.
Yeah. He's been shot.
But then Mickey D leaves, which no one's done so far.
Mm-hmm.
And he probably was able to do it because it's written down on page 244.
Oh, well, I guess that explains that then. But how does this help us? And also, why is no one freaking out? Is it just because the novel is so poorly written?
Yes.
Oh.
So they look into how the book ends, which I might have looked into earlier, because what if the hotel just explodes?
Yes. Yeah. Maybe the astronaut has been stuck here because he died here, and it just kept resurrecting him and exploding him.
So in the end of the book, Bellboy is shot. The hotel gets bought out by the foreign investors, and they leave. So Riker decides that since they are probably 3 foreigners, according to the guy at the desk, they could buy the hotel and leave.
Well, I guess this is as good a plan as any, other than the one I suggested earlier. But
Data, for some reason, decides the best way to do this is to play craps. Of all of the games that we have seen available, craps is in fact the most random. Data would be able to sweep the board in blackjack.
Yes.
Because he can calculate card odds immediately with no problem. But they decide to play craps.
Because I guess he can throw perfect, sevens many times as he likes without, there being any sort of interference from the outside world.
Well, he rolls a few times, and you get predictably random, unfavorable results. He discovers the dice are not balanced properly. He gives them a squeeze to correct this, and then rolls perfect sevens every time.
Because that's clearly the way you roll sevens, is having perfectly balanced dice.
I mean, if he can roll them perfectly, I suppose, or he just reweighted them to cheat.
Yes.
Because the hotel was obviously cheating.
Yes, so we're just going to cheat back. It's fine.
Picard reminds them that the investors in the book are described as flamboyantly generous. So Riker has Data win some extra money and starts tipping everyone with thousands of dollars.
No, I'd kind of like to get randomly tipped thousands of dollars by some random person.
Yeah, hang out in a high-class hotel, I guess.
Yeah.
The manager comes up, it's like, you've kind of broken the bank. He goes, that's okay. We'll take the hotel. Ha-ha!
Aha!
Then they leave back into the void where they started and get beamed up.
Well, I guess we've managed to escape here, and are we going to do anything about this trap hotel here?
Well, what they do, they go back to the ship and go, Gee, that was mysterious. I guess not all mysteries are satisfying.
Yes. Some alien set this up here, and we're just not going to resolve it at all.
The end.
Yes, just like Fermat's lost theorem there. It will never be solved.
Yes, never. Some writer was pretty cocky about that one.
So yeah, this is a really silly episode.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
I've always liked it. I've always really enjoyed the silly episodes. I think it actually shows the strength of the TNG cast. Because the silly episodes of original series could get a little bit grating, depending on what they were doing. But it's just fun to watch this cast engage in novel situations.
Indeed. And, they're doing their best to be, fully on board with, the absurdity of it and be in character, and they're pulling it off. So
now I do think that I don't know what to talk about here, because this episode doesn't really delve into anything interesting or ask any questions. Look at the nature of humanity. Just says some fiction is poorly written, and if you had to engage with that forever, it would suck.
Yes. Well, I guess it does remind me a little bit of some of the push currently from big media companies to basically fill our world with poorly written fiction via AI.
Yeah, though I feel like some AI would write better fiction than this.
Yes. It would at least be more random and baffling as opposed to just cliche after cliche and, just things not really coming together or making sense at all. Things might not make sense in an AI written script, but at the very least, it'll be making sense as in suddenly Q appears and just slaps, let's say Data upside the head, and it's like, that's the last time you do that, and then he vanishes, and you're like, what was that about? I don't know, but we're moving on.
I mean, it would probably be just oddly repetitive with the AI-written scripts I've seen.
Yes.
Q appears and says, hello, Data. I am Data, says Data. Yes, you are Data, says Q.
Yes. And you and me are all here together then.
Cuckoo, ka-choo.
Yes. Yeah, I guess another sort of way to maybe look at this is that there has been for quite some time a general market for cheap fiction. The Beatles even wrote a song about it. Paperback writer is like, yeah, I just want to get this thing out here, and I want to make money, sort of, but not much money because I'm not very good. And I'm basically plagiarizing a whole novel, but it's written by me, so it's better and good, right? And yeah, we're just gonna shove it out the door, and it'll be great. You'll make money off of it.
Yeah, I always enjoyed that that's a lot of the history of early sci-fi is those old pulp novels and penny magazines. Like a pulp novel, we have pulp as just a sort of general term now, but it was cheap paper. It was paper made from recycled pulp that was cheaper to print on and didn't last as long.
You get it out there, you read the short story there, or something a little longer if you're lucky, and you're like, well, that was an experience, and now I'll set it aside and it'll decay, and I don't really care about that.
Yeah, and a lot of older sci-fi was written in that kind of format, or was adapted to a paperback from a series of connected short stories that appeared in science fiction magazines. That's a lot of Asimov's stuff.
Yes. Yeah, in fact, I've recently started reading Foundation, and it's like, yeah, these are kind of clearly, dividable up into different short stories, but it's all been compiled here into a single novel, and,
I do think it's kind of interesting that the science fiction show chose to make fun of the pulpy crime novel as a depiction of bad media.
Yeah. Which we've already kind of done a crime novel episode too, so same old ground, just different players.
Yeah.
Maybe there's better options out there. Maybe like a steamy romance.
Yeah, they couldn't film that. Though that would have been great if they walk in and a dude with long hair and half a shirt rides up on horseback.
Oh, it's Fabio. I come from the land where the music is soft and the lights dim. Come with me.
I do think I was thinking about it, and my central beef that I have with this episode as a story is actually not the setting or the ridiculousness of the premise that they're doing, but that they resolve it in such a way that they don't actually have to engage with it particularly.
Yes. Just go through the motions, and
yeah, they find the book, they say, what if we get to the end of the book, and then they read the end of the book, and then they do that. Now, what if we get to the end of the story is a pretty predictable premise. It's used in a lot of stuff. It's like, especially now that video games and the VR sort of story set is so prevalent. It's you get to the end of the story and then it ends, and then you can get out of whatever thing you're trapped inside of. Pretty standard storytelling, trapped inside of a story logic.
So basically this is an escape room, but in space.
Yeah. But especially since this book was so bad, like this is talked about as a bad, pulpy book that didn't leave any particular cultural impact. It is pretty. It's not a stretch to assume that this book might have become lost media in the intervening 200 years.
Indeed. So I guess it's a little surprising then that they have just, copies in the Enterprise computer, but then again, their computer's the size of a building, so...
Like, I could see them doing historical research, figuring out that this book exists, that this is the setting, but not having enough information to complete the story. And then the conflict resolution becomes, can we figure out the story in time to get out of here before whatever ticking clock bad thing happens?
Yes. And the whole story resets and we have to try again. But, we have to wait for everything else to happen first.
Or just maybe Mickey D comes in and shoots up the entire place. Maybe Mickey D doesn't just kill the one guy and leave and you're like, haha, that's it.
What if we took the role of Mickey D? Let's try that.
That could be an interesting one if they were just like, what if we just shot up everything and then left?
Yeah.
That could be an interesting resolution because it would go so against their normal way of having to solve problems.
Like, we have to solve it with violence? Well, these aren't real people, so it doesn't count this time, I guess.
That's like the only particular problem is I like these characters. I like watching them in novel situations. That's the fun of these very wacky, random episodes. But it's we're just doing things while the characters are there. They don't have any particular impact on the story. It's happening around them. They don't have to really do anything or interact with it in any particularly meaningful way. Like, Data just has to re-weight some dice.
Yes. Which he can do despite, a lot of other things in this place being basically immune to damage, but,
Yeah.
Star Trek plots.
That works. I mean, they didn't say that. Maybe this is how the foreign investors got their money.
Yeah, I do like your idea that they had, maybe they'd have to figure out how it ends. Like, they find, the novel, but it's also physically decayed, so they get bits and pieces from it and have to sort of make educated guesses on what's happening between point A and B.
They could make educated guesses based on what they know about general story structure. There could be twists because it's so poorly written that some parts of it are unpredictable.
And so, maybe they have to go through it 2 full times or something like that in order to get it just right. Because, they run into a situation where it's like, well, yes, the logical thing to happen here is this, but apparently that didn't work. So what other options are there?
Yeah, maybe they have to learn that sometimes you need to throw out logic for spectacle. Which would work better if there was a Vulcan on the main cast.
Data's trying, but he's not going to be that kind of surprise. So
it is kind of an odd one for these early seasons, especially have a lot of these episodes that are, this is just an original series plot. Beam down to planet, weird random things happening in another set we probably just had lying around.
Indeed. Now, it does, I guess, have a bit of vibe of Spectre of the Gun in some ways, where, we are in a situation where we are engaging with these sorts of tropes in this sort of situation, and, there is a destined outcome. In this case, we're trying to follow it as opposed to avoid it.
I know, it's an interesting contrast, because, the resolution for Spectre of the Gun is, if you can realize that none of this is real, it can't hurt you. And the resolution for this is we need to treat this as real so that we can take on the role of the people who get to escape.
Yes. Bit of inverse. Yeah. In terms of this side of things, I don't got much more to say, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think the real lesson, the true lesson that one should learn from this episode is only bring good books with you when you go on your space mission in case somebody tries to make it the ideal of human existence.
Yes, though it does kind of draw into question how the aliens were able to extrapolate so much from just the novel here.
Yeah.
Because generally when you're writing, you are, setting up, various descriptions of places and things and events, but you are also doing so with the assumptions of cultural connection of some sort. You know what a building is. You know what a bellhop dress is like. You have a general vibe of what a poker chip looks like. It's, a little round circle thing with jig with color and some, notation here and, possibly a symbol of the hotel. What does a cowboy hat look like? If you're an alien, you might not necessarily get all the references that are being, used here. And you could potentially have a situation where you are generating this from what you think these things look like, but in the end, they all come out wrong in some fashion. And that could maybe have been an interesting sort of twist on what was going on.
Yeah, everything could have been a little bit off. That would have been more interesting.
Yes. And, sure, they might be doing a thing where they, extract some of the memories from the astronaut or something like that. But, what if the astronaut has never actually been to a casino or had much interested in, getting certain sorts of experiences? And so, maybe they don't know the rules of blackjack. And if the book doesn't explain what the rules are, then what the game actually is could be anything, potentially. Because, the aliens are just like, well, this is the general vibe we're getting here. And black and jack, these are separate words in their language. So maybe we need to... the winner is going to be whoever can get the jacks cards here from the spades and clubs suit. And they have to do something special with it. Let's think about how we'd build a game around that. And you could get something really strange out of it. That could be quite interesting.
It's like, yeah, so you get dealt the blackjack, and then you run around the table 3 times yelling blackjack, blackjack, blackjack.
Yep.
And then you win money.
Yes. And then suddenly you have monies. And as far as, what does a gun look like? They could just have generic space phasers here. It's like, oh, they're going to shoot somebody with this thing. And if you don't explain that this is a device that uses, a chemical mix to cause a small explosion, to accelerate a metal slug down a barrel at someone at high velocities, you could have your weapon be kind of anything that has a general idea of projecting something at someone. For all we know, the aliens could decide on a bow and arrow.
Yeah, they just point at the guy and he dies, because that's how it works.
Bang! or maybe something that for some reason looks exactly like a gun, but it doesn't shoot a bullet. It shoots a ray of sonic energy that sounds like a bang, but kills people.
What would be interesting is if they took the stuff too literally, so when the gun goes off, it doesn't make a gun noise, it just goes ki-plow.
Well, that was weird.
I think an interesting way to look at this episode, is as interesting as you can get with whatever is going on here, is this is actually sort of a subset of the human zoo concept.
Mm-hmm.
As you have this guy who needs to be put into a habitat that suits him, and the aliens make assumptions based on the things that they find to create the habitat, which historically is something that's always turned out badly.
Yeah.
Because in the history of zoos, zoos have gotten really good now. They do a lot of stuff to study animals, figure out correct environments, recreate them as best they can, make them better for the animals than for the person observing, to the point where you usually can't see animals when you go to the zoo now. That's
the animals
much better for the animals.
Yeah. The people out there are kind of freaking me out because they keep throwing things in my cage. I don't want to hang out there today. So,
but historically, you can look at an evolution of how we kept animals in zoos goes along with our scientific assumptions that we had about animals. Like they can be kept in a random featureless box because animals aren't smart enough to need anything else and is just need a place to be kept and given food.
Yeah, that's not how it actually works.
Or places where you would just throw in whatever plants happened to look good, whether or not they existed in the animal's original environment and, might be toxic.
Yeah, it's like, our Stegosaurus keeps getting, unhappy here. And like, it's because you put these plants that they like to eat here all over the place and they're killing it.
There's not much of a wider thing. It's just an interesting example of creating something that you think should be a perfect environment, but because you didn't have enough context or research, you've actually created a living hell that's going to slowly kill someone.
Yes. And, well, I guess that is in some way what's going on here. It's just, a very shiny cage as opposed to, one that's bare bones, empty room here. It's like, yeah, you're going to be able to live here as long as you like, but...
Now, the modern version of this would be someone brought Skyrim with them on their, tablet or whatever future thingy. And then when they have to actually live there, the diary is like, everything in this world is trying to kill me. I can't go outside.
If I just stay in this cabin, I'll be able to buy as much food as I like, provided I have enough gold. So I have to go outside and get more gold. But maybe I could just steal it from these people here. If I get caught, the guard's going to run up and murder me right away. Drat.
I thought living in a video game would be fun, but literally everything is out to kill you to make it interesting for the player.
Yes.
Can't walk 3 feet without a bandit.
So the trick then is to become very good at potion making so you can make armor that makes you invincible.
Yeah, just keep pickpocketing the potion maker until you get up to the point where you can just steal thousands of golds. It's such a broken game.
Did I ever tell you about the time I made a character that was One Punch Man?
No, doesn't surprise me though.
Run around the dungeons, just punch everything once and it dies. My run ended because there was a little bit of a bug with that when I faced Mirak. Oh. Anyway.
Well, until we start our inevitable spin-off video game podcast, we're probably just around for the galaxy's favorite game show. Woo!
Hey everybody, welcome to the Galaxy's Favorite Game Show, where we got lots and lots of stories to tell and many, many points to rack up and get counted here. Our various contestants have been trying real hard, and actually, no, they haven't been trying hard at all, in fact. This is maybe one of the more disappointing ones in terms of trying to hit up, the point levels here, but they have hit up many of the different tropes here, so we've had to limit the prizes handed out to just 3. So let's get started, everybody. The first one is the holodeck malfunction prize, which goes to the mysterious aliens that sit at the Royale because they're both really good at programming and really, really terrible at it at the same time. What do they win, Gepwin?
They win the modern thing that we keep insisting on calling AI, so that they start with the book and then it gets interpreted so many times that while it doesn't become better, the incoherent gibberish that it eventually turns into is at least more interesting.
A ever-evolving... status machine about what's going to be the Royale and who's going to be facing off against Mickey D this time. Ho ho! Our second prize is the Garbage In Murder Out prize, which goes to Mickey D because he's destined to always murder the bellboy forever because of poor writing. Poor bastard. Anyway, what does he win, Gepwin?
Mickey D gets his own show where he slowly becomes self-aware and then just spends every episode trying to get himself out of this thing where he has to horribly murder someone for no reason and then failing over and over again as he's slowly just driven insane by the repetitive boredom of shooting a bellboy.
So the situation gets more and more absurd the more he tries to refuse. And it's like, oh yes, I now have a fully, concrete and elaborate world around me. But if I don't shoot the bowboy, that world that I've been enjoying so much will be destroyed. No! Anyway, our final prize today is the cliche pileup. The writers get this one because we got a mix of Star Trek tropes and casino drama cliches piling up on top of each other to make an episode that is a bit wacky. Yeah. What do they win, Gebwin?
They win tvtropes.com, which was not available at the time because, especially the writer's strike's been on as of our recording, so you could just go in as an executive and go, I want that one and that one and that one, and let's just mush them all into a computer and see what happens.
And suddenly you have an episode where, Riker's beard wanders off and tries to murder people.
While it jumps over a shark and plays poker.
There's some poker involved, and Deanna is like, I can sense the people there. What people? The people out there in the audience, they're watching and they're disappointed in this. And it all comes together at the end to be all like, and then that happened. The end. So that's all I got here, Gepwin. I could go on for a bit, but I only have so many prizes to hand out. So take us away before it gets too weird.
Yeah, we're going to go back off into the black void from whence we came. So thank you for joining us for the Galaxy's favorite game show. Woo!
So, Fermat's last theorem.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you know about it?
This is, I can't prove it. But.
And apparently in Star Trek, no one can.
Yeah.
But Andrew Wiles figured out most of it. There's maybe a couple of things he needed to get smoothed over at the end, but getting together the modularity theorem, suddenly like, oh, we're sort of connecting, stuff in the upper half of the complex plane with elliptic integrals or something there. And they're like, yeah, that's basically the same thing as Fermat's last theorem. The end.
Hooray.
Hooray. Also, some various approaches from various different mathematicians doing various different weird things, and yes.
Aye.
So,
yeah, I don't know much about it. The main thing that I know about any of these math proofs is the end to a thing that's like, well, we can't exactly go through every single number and prove that this doesn't work somewhere in the 47 billion 5 quadrillion range.
Yep. We can do a lot of brute force calculation, but we could always add one more to our number that we're trying out here, and well, we don't have time to actually do that. So maybe a different way to study numbers is necessary. 1, 2, 3, 4.
But we're running out to the next episode, which, while equally obnoxious and doesn't give the characters any particular agency, and is also about predestiny, interestingly, is very bad instead of being this episode's sort of sillily enjoyable.
Yes. The next one is one of those episodes where it's like, I barely remember it, and it's like, oh yeah, it's that one where Picard's like having a thing happen.
Yeah, people remember some of the visuals, and for some reason, Data keeps painting this thing. This picture shows up so much. It must be a piece of concept art that they're reusing or something, because this thing from this episode shows up as art so often.
Yeah, we're just gonna copy paste here. It's fine. No one noticed, right?
Yeah. Or it's just an Easter egg. I don't know. Anyway, next episode is Time Squared, which, while it sounds like that's going to be one of the fun time travel episodes or a time loop or any of the things that they do well, it's that weird one where a second Picard shows up, has almost no lines, and just leads them on a merry chase into a wormhole.
Yep. And nothing was learned as a result.
Nothing was learned, very little was done. Nothing was accomplished.
Yes. So I guess the important thing to remember is that I counted to 4, and that 4 is a perfect square.
Yes.
But time squared is not perfect.
No, it's not.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all. That's it. That's this. I'm not looking forward to it, but we'll figure out something. We always do.
Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow, Picard meets his clone. No, not that one. You have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and Twitter @Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix and Twitter @IsixLP. Music is Waveform and Maury's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you, that is now, no longer exists.